Joy tá aqui, ama.
So maybe we can start. Hello, welcome everyone. This is the first week of the training for DFT for the LAX related to ERA 2024 data collection. First of all, I have created your accounts for DFT for the ones that didn't already have one. Can you please confirm whether you have it, and if you don't have access or you cannot access the market node in the tool, let us know by email or in the chat so that we take care of it. We will start with some introduction in the tool for today, and then tomorrow we will dig into more specific subjects and topics about the technologies that we are going to collect data for. I will give the floor to Andras. It's a member from Expert in Demand from Mavid. And please go ahead. Thank you.
Can you hear me, please?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Thank you. Thank you, Anastasia. Hello, everybody. I'm András Kádár from Mavir. I work there as a LAC, and I also participate in the work of expert team demand. And this way, I have some experience already with DFT. And this afternoon is about is the first day of the training session during this November for the Lux, and um, this is the purpose is to have an overview of the tool and to show you how it works, and for you to be able to prepare your time series, which are needed from you for the next data collection for ERA. So I think I will start the presentation now. So, but please, I have my laptop only, so I won't see anything in Teams. But if you have any questions or anything to add or to ask, please interrupt me. And I hope we can discuss any question that comes up during the training. So first of all, yeah, maybe I should present. So first of all, um, the outline of this afternoon will be the following mostly. So first of all, we will have a short overview and motivation, some motivational introduction of the tool, and then I will show you a short uh, demo, but just clicking through the tool in order for you to get familiar with the tool itself and the interface. And then we will talk about the detailed workflow, what you have to do inside the tool regarding data imports, data-driven modeling, forecasting, reporting. And then later in the afternoon, but hopefully we can do it quickly. Later, we will talk about some issues, some best practices, and also about some specific questions about the inputs and the outputs of DFT. And finally, we will have a Q&A as well. But as I already said, if you have a question, I think we can start it like that. So if you have a question during the training, feel free to ask and interrupt, or just put it in the chat, and then maybe please, Anastasia, if there is something related to the topic I'm talking about, a question in the chat, please just tell me and we can go over it after the specific topic.
Yes. Yes, I will take care of it.
Yeah, thank you. And just to let you know, I'm not available after 4 p.m. So until then, at least this is the plan. I will talk and I will show you the tool. And after that, maybe Anastasia will have some um, technical issues or introduction null topics as well. But
Yes.
we will see.
Maybe we can go through the tool or do some question and answer session.
Yeah, more questions and answers. Yeah, okay. Okay, let's start. So the overview is, so we have two links which are quite, yeah, basic. The one is the documentation and the other is the tool itself. So as far as I know, you got access to the tool already, the second link. But if you don't have this link or if you don't have access, please write an email or please write down your problem in the chat or directly to Anastasia, and hopefully we can take care of the problem. And also the introduction, the documentation itself. Maybe you haven't got that link, but yeah, we will put it in the chat and also we will circulate it through email. because this is also quite important, because it's not final yet, but it's already, the material is already there, and it's a live kind of documentation. And the plan is actually, the present is that this documentation follows and every kind of major changes in the tool. So it's not a static one, but a dynamic one. So these are the two important links, and some words about the DFT before I show you a quick click through inside the tool. So it's a tool which is centrally hosted. It's developed by SIA Partners. It's a global consultant firm, I think a French one. It was developed by them, and it runs on their IT infrastructure, but it's developed for ENTSO-E. So ENTSO-E has, I don't know, the rights for this tool and the methodology behind. So this is a tool which, you know, replaced Trapunta, and the main purpose was to improve a bit also the data delivery process, and also uh, the process itself, how the demand forecasts or predictions are being made. So that was the main reason why this tool was developed, and also to improve or to enhance the user experience, let's say, because Trapunta was, you know, mainly a desktop application, and it had lots of advantages, and it had lots of good things, but it had also some limitations regarding the transparency of the, the forecasts of the processes, and also some other modeling or more methodological aspects. So yeah, of course, this tool, it claims to model the main drivers of future electricity demand. And as I already said, it has certain flexibilities, especially compared to Trapunta. So you can reuse your previously parameterized models, or you can model single demand components explicitly. It was also possible in Trapunta, but the new tool has a much better user interface, and it's centrally hosted. So it means that all the projects that are created by the users in the tool are saved and stored in a central place. So it's much easier to follow what's happening inside the tool, and what are the inputs, what are the outputs. It's still not a final tool. It's, maybe I will tell this sentence many times during this training, but it's important to note that this tool was introduced, I don't know, as a normal or a usual IT project. So after being, I don't know, 90% complete, the introduction was made, and it meant that the user acceptance tests um, were were created and were fulfilled. But then certain features are still being developed right now, even right now. So it's a message that I would like to emphasize, that this tool and even the documentation is not final, is being developed currently as well. So uh, nothing is complete, you know, 100%, never, but we are hopefully getting closer to that with this tool as well. So, and yeah, maybe one more, but I already mentioned this, that DFT has a project-based structure, logic. So you create projects, and inside projects you create your models, you change the input data, you change the parameters, and you experiment with the tool to get the best forecast or the most satisfactory forecast that you can. So having said that, I don't know if you have already any questions. Feel free to just ask them. But in the meantime, I will jump to the tool itself and just to show you how it looks like, how the interface looks like, and what's the usual process of creating a demand forecast inside DFT. So this is the link, which I hope you already get. And this is, you have some credentials that you have to put or give to the tool, and then you go to this welcome page, let's say, where it's a project dashboard where you see all your projects which were done or which were created in the past. With this button, with this create new project button, you can create a new one, or from the list you can select any of the previous projects and you open them and continue the work which you left previously. So for the time being, I don't want to run the DFT, so I don't want all of you to wait for my results. So I already created a simple project for this training, and I waited for the results. So so that I can just show you now the main steps of this process. So up here, you can see this kind of workflow, which you can deselect or select. So as you can see, there are 4 main steps of creating a demand forecast in DFT after creating a project. So first one is importing data, and the next one is do a so-called data-driven modeling, and then you do the actual forecast itself, and then finally you get some results and save any kind of reports that are available and that you want to have from the tool. So first of all, this is the import section. I already did this. We will see how it looks like, but at a later point. But for the time being, just want to show you that this is, I created a project I imported some files for the Hungarian market node, and I selected a scenario. This select scenario is just, I would like to emphasize here as well, and also later, it's just for labeling the output files. So it's a created list. There's a list about the available scenarios, and you have to select one, but it's not that important. It's just that it will label the output files later at the result sections. But after you select these 2 things, you are able to upload your own input data, which is the calendar data and the PMDB data. We will talk about all of them in detail later. Maybe you already know them, but so it's just, I would like to show this interface. So you have the option here to select your files, and after you select them, the tool will show you how the input files look like in your case. So in this case, it shows you the historical load time series. It shows you the historical climate data, which is based on the PCD files, PCD data. And it can be irradiance or wind speed or the 2 types of temperature. And you can quickly go through them if you want to make sure that the data looks like what you would like to see. And then finally, as a last input here in this import section, you can check the calendar file which you uploaded, whether this calendar file contains the necessary or the good information about the special days that you want to highlight and you want to use for your modeling. We will also talk about this in later in more details. And after you, you inspected your data, you can go to the modeling section, either by clicking here, go to modeling, or either by just clicking in the workflow on this next section. And in the data-driven modeling part, you will also have to select some parameters or some things. First one is the training time period, and the second one is the test time period. It's about the modeling. So the model, the data-driven model, which period should be included in this model, in this estimation of the model. Then you click on validate, and then you are able to select and to specify a model which you would like to estimate for your historical load time series. And we will see later what are the options. I now just use this so-called automatically fitted best model, which is available for everybody, for every market node. This is a pre-specified model for every user. Let's say by the developers. This is a model which they experimented with on many market nodes, and they found this the best fitting model for the historical load time series. But I would like to emphasize it here, and also I will emphasize it later, that this is just a first or let's say a template model. So every market node is different, and you maybe have to select some different parameters in order to have the best results you can. But yeah, all in all, after you selected some parameters here, as you can see, variables, some other parameters, you can click on run modeling, and then after some time, the tool will estimate your model, and you will get to see the results of this model. And in the results section, there are lots of things. They are mainly used for observing the model. What are the problems with this model? What needs to be changed, maybe? So there are plots for this, and also, lots of metrics and plots. We will talk about them in detail later. But after, if you have a model which you find suitable for your case, then you have to select it at the in the end down in this page. I already selected this one. I didn't experiment with many models here, but this table is for model selection, as the name suggests. So after fitting some models, you can select the model which you would like to use for forecasting for the next step based on some metrics which we will also talk about later. So after you click on select, this one model gets selected, and then you can go to the forecasting page. So we are at the third section of the tool of the whole process. Until now, we imported data. We estimated a model on historical time series, load time series, and now we have to, based on these two, we would like to do the forecasting. So in the forecasting step, you also have to select some parameters, let's say. So you have to select the forecast time period, which target year you would like to do the forecast. Also, you have to select the climate years which you want to use for your forecast. You see now what I selected for this little example. You have to also select the calendar, whether it should be the same as the forecasted year. So whether it should be the same calendar as 2026 in this case, or it should be different. I selected that it should be different, and specifically it should be 2018. So for ERA, the calendar year has to be 2018, as far as I know, because this is the year when the year started with a Monday. And also there are some other parameters, let's say, which you can select, but I didn't select anything here at this point. And I click on do the forecasting, something like that here. And after some time, I will get the results of the forecast and some, yeah, I get the results of the forecast, which we will see in the next section. But before that, the DFT shows you also what are the inputs for the forecasts. And these sections is about the PMDB file. So it summarizes you the PMDB file and the values in the PMDB file, which will be used for the forecast. So you can have a short overview of what you would like to, or what you inputted in the PMDB file, and what are the things that will be used for the forecast. And then if you are happy, then you click on go do the forecasting, and then the tool will estimate and calculate you the forecasts for the specified target year. So after some time, the results section will be open, and you can click on go to results, and then this is a page where some results are shown in the interface, and also some reports can be downloaded. So this section is also quite, like, detailed, so there are much to see here as well, but we will talk about these sections as well in detail. But just to emphasize what the process looks like, or it will look like for you. So after having the results, you have to download the files for yourself and upload them, I think, to share file, where ENTSO-E would like to have all the results from you. So yeah, the process itself ends after having these results, making sure that they are good as best as you can, and then downloading them and sending or uploading them to the ENTSO-E share file, to a specific folder. So this is it. This is the whole workflow. And also this is the interface of DFT. I wanted to show you the interface, maybe if you haven't seen it, just to be able to see what's going on and how it looks like, and what are the main sections. And yeah, just to have a quick overview about the whole process, the whole workflow, because it's not that difficult. It's just, you have to get used to it, especially if you haven't done it before for yourself, or if ENTSO-E did this for you in Trapunta or in DFT previously. So I will jump back to the presentation. So if anybody would like to ask a question, just feel free.
Excuse me, Andras.
Yeah.
Just one question. Since I unfortunately missed the beginning of the of the training. Was this recorded? The work with the interface, will it be uploaded somewhere or?
Yes, the whole training is recorded, so we will share the recording later.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Yeah. I see this button here up there that it's recorded. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I haven't. Yeah, just it comes to my mind that we didn't talk about the breaks. So I think we will have maybe 2 breaks at least. The next break will be the next break. The first break will be, I think, after. Yeah, we will see. But after the data-driven modeling part, maybe. I hope you still have some energy, and I still have some energy. So yeah, let's do the most that we can in this first section. So yeah, I haven't shared my screen again. So yeah, this is where we were. So from now on, we will talk about the input files, so the import section, which I showed you previously in the tool, a bit more detailed. So the first thing to notice or to note is that which files are inputs of the DFT. So basically, there are 4 different files, different types of files. The first one is the load file, the historical load time series. The second one is the PCD files, then the calendar file, or previously it was called holiday file, and it's still called holiday file at some point of the tool or even in the documentation, unfortunately. But yeah, and lastly, we have the PMDB file. So the load file is, it contains the historical load time series, and you have to, right now, you have to send them to ENTSO-E. Basically, for all the market nodes, we already have these historical load files collected several times. But anytime you want to have adjustment in these files or to change the file completely, you have to contact yeah, maybe Anastasia and send them or send her the file itself. I haven't prepared for showing this file actually. Now that, yeah, this is what I realize now, but any of you maybe, please tell me if you would like to see how this load file looks like. And
Yes, please, if
yeah,
possible.
yeah, okay, so it will be valuable. Okay, so I will show it to you now. So I try to find the file from Hungary maybe. So yeah, I can prepare it during the break as well. Yeah, that's true. Okay, so yeah, let's do it in the break and then we will, yeah, okay, we don't waste time. So this is the load file. I will talk about, or I will show it to you, but this is the basis for the data-driven modeling. So it's, this is the dependent variable that we want to forecast, the load itself, the hourly load. So this should be sent by you to data and models if you want to change it or adjust it. And there will be a share file link or share file folder, or even there is already a share file folder where you can do it. It has a naming convention for DFT as well. So it should start with load and then the node digits, the 4 digits node, and then some other explanatory text. Yeah, And the last column is not that important, but the load file should only contain 2 underscores in their name. So we have the PCD files as well, which contain the weather related variables for the historical weather related variables. This is also used both for data-driven modeling to estimate the model on the historical data, and also for forecasting. This is provided by ENTSO-E or collected by ENTSO-E, and this is already inside the tool. So hopefully nobody will have anything to do with these files. The other 2 files are a bit different because they can be uploaded in the file in the DFT directly. The first one is the calendar file. This is also, used during the modeling and also in the forecasting because it contains the special days that you want to use in your forecast, in your model.
Sorry, can I stop it up?
Yeah, go on.
This one is different because we're sending it to a third party promoter, which is
I cannot hear you, but if you have a question,
You hear
please.
me?
Yeah, I can hear you
You're
now.
not presenting anymore. Can you share your screen?
Okay, sure.
Thank you.
Sorry. Okay. So yeah, I was talking about the calendar file, which used for the data-driven modeling and the forecasting, and this can be directly uploaded to DFT if you want to change something, and you can experiment with changing it, how it affects the forecasts. It also has a naming convention, and it also has some rules to follow in the naming. We have the PMDB file, which is, used for adjusting the forecast itself. So the forecast is made based on the data-driven model that we estimate, but then we would like to adjust this forecast because, we think that some technologies will have a major effect on the future load. So we create this PMDB file just for that. And this is also, you can upload this directly to DFT and experiment with the values inside, how it affects the forecasts, and what you would like to see in the hourly load predictions. This is also have naming convention and some rules. So the demand forecasting toolbox, again, from a high level perspective. So down there, the 2 main parts are the data-driven model, and we get to this total forecast. And the data-driven model itself creates this forecast, but we adjust it with some effect of the technologies, which we include in the PMDB file, which comes from this upper bubble. So this is the main logic behind demand forecasts. It's not new, or it's nothing new in DFT. It was really similar in Trapunta, but it's good to know what's going on under the hood. So the workflow, we talk about today mainly about the workflow itself. So as you already saw, we have this workflow visualization inside the tool, where you can see the main steps, the main sections, and you also see where you are now and what's remaining from the process. So the data import itself, as I already showed you, you have to select the market node, and for this market node, the DFT will produce independent models. So there are some LUCs, as I know, that have more than 1 market nodes. So they have the possibility to select all of them, but I think they still have to create separate model and the separate process. A separate model, no, it's a separate model for all of them. But the advantage of DFT is that these models can be reused again, so you don't necessarily click or select all the parameters again. You just select the model, the previously fitted model from a list, and then you can use it for further analysis. Also, I talked about this scenario. You have to select them, but it's really, I want to emphasize that it's just for labeling. It's just for mainly for ENTSO-E to know which scenario we are working on, but generally it doesn't really affect how the tool works. So after selecting these things, you can go to this import section where you can either upload your own files, calendar file or PMDB file, or you can use the file which is in the database already. So DFT is pre-filled with data, but these data may not be, I don't know, the most up-to-date. So most of the time, at least how I use it, the tool, is that I create, for every project, I create a new PMDB file with the technologies, with the technology evolution that I would like to use, and I upload it inside the tool directly. The holiday file is, yeah, go on.
Sorry for interrupting. Is there a template for PMDB file, or where can we find it? And for calendar
Yes.
data as well. I mean,
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, maybe I don't go back to the tool, but you can see two circles in the right upper corner of both of these pictures. So clicking on these circles, you download a template file for either for calendar or for PMDB.
Oh, okay.
And then you
Thank
can
you.
use it. Yeah, welcome. Yeah, the most important thing to note here is that there is a naming convention, and also there is, formatting conventions or formatting rules which you have to follow. So it's really important to create files that are accepted by the tool. We will talk about the formatting and content issues later, but just to note here, DFT does a pre-check, a simple pre-check before accepting the upload. So yeah, this can cause some headaches, but normally if you follow or use the PMDB templates or use some previously created PMDB files maybe, then you are safe and you can use them. So after that, if you import these data or select these data inputs, you can visually check them. So you can check the historical load time series and also the climate data from the PCD, which can be used for the modeling and the forecasting step as well. And lastly, you can even check the calendar file, how the days are grouped over the historical years. So this is about importing the data and the input section. Any other questions maybe related to these? Because I think, yeah, go on.
Just a quick question. Are you going to I know it's quite simple, but on the general information when setting up the model, are you going to touch on that? I just know that you've skipped to the import section. I just have a question on when setting up.
I didn't really understand what you would like to.
So you've started on the import section of the DFT. Are you going to go to the general info? Are you going to talk about the general information, the first tab? when setting up a model?
So you're creating a project inside the tool, right?
Yeah, just yes. I
Okay.
just have a question on
Sure.
what
Okay, I
what
will
kind of,
go back then there because
if you don't mind, thank you.
it's better to. Okay, so I changed my screen hopefully. So this is the welcome screen, and then you can create a new project. So this is what you asked, I guess.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
my question is on the study, does it make a difference on what you click there in the study field, or is that similar to this scenarios where it's just a title?
Yeah, good question. I think the study is the same as the scenario, so it doesn't really matter.
Okay.
Anastasia, do you have anything
I would say that it
against
should be
that?
the same as the scenario, yes.
Yeah,
Okay.
but
It's,
as you
Yes.
can see, we created already
The ERA 2024
yeah,
is
study.
there.
Yeah, for every study we try to create, every time a study label here for you to be able to select, and then it's not getting confusing what's going on and which
Yeah.
project belongs to which study. Yeah.
Sorry,
same.
but there's a background noise. Can you
Yes,
just
sorry.
check to make sure that you're muted?
And is that the same, Andres, with the winter and summer? That doesn't make a difference either if you leave them ticked or unticked.
Yeah, so with the stars, you have to do something or have to fill
Mhm.
in, but these are not obligatory. So it's mainly for seasonal outlooks. So it's not necessary to fill them. It's not necessary even to check it with. So just you are safe with like test project and then test, and then the organization is you cannot select many things, and you will select ERA 2024 and then leave everything like that, and you create, and you already in this general information tab. Yeah.
Great. Thank you.
Okay, welcome. Yeah, so this belongs to the workflow, and this is the first step, of course, in the tool. But in the meantime, I think I found the load file, because then yeah, maybe it's best to show it here, and then this belongs here. So so the load file, yeah, hopefully you see it. So basically this is the load file, which contains the hourly load time series for a given market node, and this is how it looks like. So every sheet is a different year, historical year, and you have to provide all the years which you can for your market node. But yeah, this is also a thing which I will talk about maybe more later. But for the time being, the tool can only use, or at least it's not the tool. So we can only use load time series, historical load time series up until 2019. And this is mainly because the PCD data, which are missing after these years. And so generally you don't have climate year, different climate years data to have so you don't have these not climate years, but these historical years of PCD to create your models on. And so yeah, you need to provide this Excel file at least until this point, but it's preferable that you provide all of the years that you can. So yeah, we are in the end of 2023. So yeah, hopefully everybody or every market node can already provide data until the end of 2022. Yeah, the other reason why, but it's not the main reason, but it's also a thing which is not solved yet. Just to let you know that, you know, these COVID years and also 2022 with the problematic situations have some really difficult load curves than previously, and the model has to, you know, follow this change and has to we have to prepare the model to be able to still estimate good load curve. And this is especially true for long-term forecast, because you know, it's not easy to define or decide whether we should be as close as possible to the latest load curves, or we have some information about the future and we would like to see something in the future which is maybe really different from the present, especially if we talk about a COVID year. So these are methodological issues as well, and also technical issues which are behind this shortcoming of this process, that we can only have historical load time series up until 2019. But basically this is how the load file looks like, and we will talk about how it should be filled in and how what are the formatting issues that are mainly relevant here. Okay, so this was it. I wanted to show you because maybe, yeah, who knows if somebody haven't seen or doesn't remember how the load file looks like. So going back to the presentation. So if you have no more questions about the import section or anything else related to that, I will go to the data-driven modeling part. Also, just a similar click through about the interface mainly. So, okay, I always click the F5 button. So, data-driven modeling. So, as we saw already, for data-driven modeling, the first thing to select or to decide is whether or is which period you would like to estimate your model on. So in DFT, it's a new thing compared to Trapunta. You have the possibility to select a training period and a test period. So the training period is basically the period which you will have or you will estimate your model on. And then the test period is a period which you will evaluate your model performance on. This is all before doing any forecasting, but this is the main purpose is that with this estimation and evaluation, you are able to select the best possible model that you can, and the tool is created for you or for us users in order to be able to do this like iteration of estimation and evaluation. So once again, the training period is the period which the model is estimated on, and then the test period is the period which you evaluate your model on, how the forecasting performance behaves. So this is how these two samples or two definitions differ, and this is why they are important. But this is not on the slide I wrote or we wrote, but it's also important that after you estimated the model and you evaluated the model on the test period, you select a model finally, but then the model itself will be re-estimated on the whole period. So you don't lose the test period from your model estimation, but in the end, the test period will also become the period which the model parameters, the model estimation will take place. It's important because it was a bit confusing previously for other users, but you don't lose the test period. It's mainly because you just leave it out from the evaluation phase in order for you to have a forecasting performance indication how the model behaves on a sample which it didn't see previously, and based on that you will select the model, but then the model will be re-estimated on the whole period and you don't lose this test period. Okay, so I talked about it a bit too much, but hopefully it's clear. Yeah, so these are the two periods that you have to select. One further thing to note here is, unfortunately, the training period cannot be like, cherry picked. So you cannot pick just 2012 and then just 2014 and 2016. So it has to be contagious, something like that. So continuous. This is something which was decided beforehand, before developing the tool. So it's one thing which you have to, accept. So after selecting these periods, you validate, you click on validate on the button, and then you are able to specify your model. But before that, I created another slide. So this is mainly about the same thing I talked about. So the reason why we need this separation of these two periods is that we not only would like to see how the model performs on historical data that we estimated on, but we also would like to see how it performs on samples or on periods which it didn't see before. So that's why we have this test period separation, and it's an indication of the modeling or the forecasting performance, how the model performs on this test period. Yeah, one more thing to note here is that overfitting is a phrase which we use a lot. So overfitting is a similar concept what I talked about. So we would like to avoid, like, a very flexible model which is really following the historical data, but then it doesn't really follow what comes next and what was in the future compared to that historical data. So we would like to have this balance, keep this balance with flexibility and like good performance, good forecasting performance. So yeah, the DFT interface, we talked about it. So you click on this new model button, and then you either create a new model or you select a previously fit model from the list. You have to name this model. This is also not really important how you name it. It's just for you to be able to follow what's happened and for you to be able to reuse a model, and then you start specifying the model. So the specification, so in DFT, it is a bit flexible in this sense that we have 3 different types of models that we can select. So we have a linear regression model, we have random forest model, and we have a generalized additive model. These later 2 are kind of, can more easily grab or grasp the possible non-linear relationship between the dependent variable and the features, or the climate variables and the kind of variables that we would like to use. So there are also some other parameters. So it's the confidence interval. The confidence interval is necessary because the forecast, the results will contain, the reports will contain this confidence interval information about the forecast, and this basically tells us how, you know, how certain we are about this the prediction itself. So we don't just get a point forecast, a point prediction, but we also get an interval inside which DFT thinks that the forecast will be, and we can select which confidence interval we would like to see in the results. The next thing which we have to select is the regressor, the so-called regressors. These are the variables that we would like to estimate a relationship between these variables and the load file, the load time series. And there are two types. So there is the weather features and there is the calendar features. So for the weather features, we saw that they come from the PCD database, and this can be wind speed, irradiance, population weighted temperature, and a smoothed version of this population weighted temperature. This latter variable is not originally in the PCD database, but it was calculated and created by the developers because they experimented with the data, and they saw that this for some market nodes, or in some cases, this variable is a bit better for assessing the temperature dependency of the load, the historical load. But you can also inspect this variable in the import section after, you know, loading, or after inputting the imports, inputting the files into the DFT. And the other types are the calendar features, where there is a list about your special days, the special groups of days, which you indicated in the calendar file. And there are also some other mainly seasonal variables, like the day of the year, the day of the week, months variable, and also these so-called timestamp variables, which are used for assessing the time trend, the evolution, the time evolution, long-term evolution of the historical load time series. I think we will talk about them in more detail later. So yeah, I talked about the temperature variable already. So this is created by SIA partners, the developers. So we have this original one and we have this smooth one, which is really simply just a smoothed average, moving average, I think, moving average of the original raw temperature data. Also the wind speed, and we have some information here about why this wind speed can be important for, or useful for modeling the historical load time series. So this wind speed has some characteristics, so weak seasonal pattern, but it has a volatility, a higher volatility than maybe the irradiance, as we will see. And yeah, there are some considerations which we have to make. So for example, it tends to lower the perceived temperature, and that makes an effect on the load probably. And also it can accelerate heat transfer. So this is just because yeah, maybe some market nodes or some experts like question why wind speed is needed for historical load forecasts. So in some cases and in some periods, it can have some additional effect on historical load evolution. Also irradiance, we can tell some characteristics about it. So it has a seasonal pattern highly correlated with temperature, and more lightning needs if there is low irradiance, and the sunlight helps warm buildings. So these are like just simple things which we wanted to emphasize here, that in some cases these variables may be also important and useful for the modeling. Let's go to the calendar variables. So the basic thing and the most important thing here, so weekdays and weekends are incorporated in the tool in DFT, so we don't have to specify them explicitly or directly, because the tool knows which day is a weekday and which day is a weekend. So this is also important for the calendar file, how it should be filled in. So in the calendar file, we don't need to specify weekdays and weekends, just the so-called special days. And this is the right column here. So what can be a special day? It can be holidays, so-called bridge days, post-holidays. It can be a longer period even, if you think that it's relevant for your market node. So it can be even a complete month or a longer Christmas period, Easter period, whatever. And yeah, we have this note here in the end of the slide that these are, so DFT is not developed or not planned to help this investigation. You can only like inspect visually your time series, but it's really necessary for you to be aware of what kind of days or what kind of special days are relevant for your market node. The other calendar, so-called calendar variables, we talked about that. So it's the months and the day of the year, and also the day of the week is important, because day of the week should be selected or can be selected in the tool as well. And it's not about weekdays or weekends, it's about whether a certain day of the week should have a different effect than others. So this should, if this is relevant as well, you should also use that variable. And also here we have something about these so-called trend variables, timestamp variables. So these are supposed to capture the long-term evolution of the historical time series, a long-term trend. But it's also really important to note that the value of these features are not extrapolated to the forecasting period, to the target year, which we want to forecast on. So these are fixed at their last value in the training sample. So this way, this is just a safe solution for not like having an explosion of the load forecast, or not going to zero, or the load forecast should not go to zero or below zero. If we are not really careful, or the model we estimate is not good, then it can happen that if these variables are extrapolated as well, then for really long-term forecasting, their effect will be not what we want. So this is the reason why the developers decided to like cut the value at the end of the training period. So this means that you cannot really transfer a longer term trend this way to the forecast, but still for some cases it can be useful, because then if there is a longer term trend in your historical load time series, then you should include this variable in the modeling phase, in the data-driven model, because then the estimation of other variables, of other relationships will be much more precise. So yeah, this was just a note. And we are going into more details than I wanted, but yeah, this belongs here as well. So these were the calendar variables which we can use. So just to make sure you don't get lost, so after this we can have go to the interface as well and just check or see how these if there's any question about any of these settings, so we can go into the tool and check them. And of course, this presentation will be shared with you, so you can every time you can just go to the slide, and you can also go to the tool itself and experiment with the setting for you. And also the documentation is contains a lot of information about the interface and the settings, the possible settings. So I hope it won't be confusing. But still, with the data-driven modeling part, before starting the model to estimate, we need to define some parameters for the models, for model types which we selected. So in this slide, we showed you the GAM model and the random forest model. So which parameters we should specify for these. So these are parameters which kind of define how flexible the model should be. And a rule of thumb is that without knowing anything about the methodology itself, so the models itself, a rule of thumb, the more number of splines you put here, the more flexible your model will be. Also, the more number of estimators or more maximum depths you indicate here for the random forest, the more flexible your model will be. But this comes with a price, and we talked about this. So if there is too much flexibility for the model, it will overfit the training sample and maybe not generalize well enough to the test sample and also to the forecasted period. So yeah, once again, we should keep a good balance between flexibility and precision, maybe. Let's phrase like that. So what's written down is that you have these parameters, hyperparameters for these models, and then this serves as a fine-tuning of these algorithms. And the higher these numbers are, the more flexible the model becomes. And then this overfitting or flexibility you can check with the results, which is the next part. Sorry, I just check where I am in the presentation now. So yeah, we have this results section for the data-driven model, and then we go to the forecast. So we are already 2:15, so yeah, maybe a bit
Should we have a
late.
break after this section?
Yeah.
Or
Yeah, let's do this results section still, and then we can have a break,
okay.
and then okay. I've tried to do it quickly, so we can have a break in 15 minutes, hopefully. Okay, so
So there's a question in the chat.
Yep.
Why can't we always choose 90% confidence interval during the modeling when we create a model?
yeah, we can. It's the confidence interval is, I don't know, in practice maybe it's not used. So by ENTSO-E it's not the most important. For ENTSO-E it's not the most important thing to have. So we can choose what we want. It's not obligatory to choose 50 or 90. I think it's just how we always do. Like we don't use a small interval, but we use a higher one in order to have, to be safe. Let's say it like that. So yeah, you can select what you want, basically. It's just
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I see another question. I suppose default values are quite good. So default values, you mean by the default settings and parameters and models inside the tool, right? So in general. Yes. So yeah. So default values, it's really a good question. So these are defaults because for some market nodes for a given experiment, they worked the best, but in some cases they don't work. So what I know from my experience is that for example, the so-called automatically fitted best model, which is available for every market node, is not good for Hungary because it's it's a too flexible model. So it estimates really, wiggly curve for I don't know, maybe temperature dependency, but then it just doesn't reflect reality, and we don't get this U-shape curve, but instead we get a really wiggly curve. And then, okay, I don't want to see, strange values for this relationship, and I don't really care at that point about how precise the model is in historical data. I care more about the generalizability of my model, and then I would like to have a little less flexible model, but but hopefully it can generalize more, and it can, give back more sensible results in terms of, for example, temperature dependency. But yeah, it's a good question. This question is related to the next section, how you assess the performance of your model and how you look at the results and how you decide whether it's good or not. So, sorry, I don't know what.
We have a question from Georgiana.
Yeah,
Yes.
go on.
Sorry, for me it's not clear how to choose from between GAM and random forest, for instance, as parameter. Only seeing the results and going back to adapting and adjusting these parameters, or what is in principle the difference between choosing from one to another?
Yeah, we will cover this shortly. Not, maybe tomorrow. Yeah, tomorrow. How these models differ. Right now, I can tell you that it's really the same topic which I talked about just now. So it's, yeah, you would like to have a flexible model, but not a too flexible model. So, and yeah, I can only, so these are subjective things, not very objective ones. So, but the default values are there and you can start from there. And then if you see that your results are not good, then you can always change. But yeah, that's true that changing these parameters, it's an iterative thing. So if you are not satisfied with the result, then you go back, change some parameters, and then you see how it affected your results, and then decide whether you're still not satisfied or you can go on with the results. So basically, I can suggest that we shouldn't be afraid of like starting with something, but then we should like change if we see that something is really not looking good. And hopefully I can show you some plots, and in the tool there are some plots which can show you whether your results are good or not. So yeah, just go with the default. If that's good for you, go with the default and then check the results or check the model, and then change if you think something is not good. So it maybe here it's useful to emphasize again that the DFT is a general tool. Sorry, I have some. It's a general tool, and it's yeah, we can say that it's a one-size-fits-all tool. So this means that it cannot cover every kind of problems, but it tries to have a good solution for a sensible solution for all of the market nodes. So hopefully I could answer your question. So, but we will later talk about the parameters of the model types and what they mean, at least intuitively, and how we should think about them. So yeah. So after you selected these parameters, you click on run model, and then you wait, and you get the first results. So the result section has the first plot, which is the so-called partial dependence plot. So this is a tool to investigate the independent impact of every feature on the load, on the historical load, on the model. So as you can see from the picture here, in this picture, so you can see the effect of the population weighted temperature, the smoothed version, on the load forecast in the hour of 9. So for every 9 hour of every day, the 9 hour of every day, you have this kind of relationship estimated by the model for between the temperature and the load. So this is kind of visually to inspect this relationship, and I was referring to this kind of partial dependence plots previously when I said that for Hungary we saw that these plots were really wiggly, and the relationship was unrealistic. In this case, in this example, on this plot, it's a smooth curve, and it's quite reasonable. But it's depending on the market node, it's depending on the model, it's depending on the input data. But based on this, you have a first picture about what kind of relationship is estimated by the model. It's also important to note that these plots only allow relative or subjective comparisons. So the absolute values on the axis shouldn't be used by themselves, but it should only intuitively show you the relationship which is estimated by the model. So the first result section is the partial dependence plot, and you can select all the features that you selected for the model, and you select all the hours if you fitted an hourly model, which we will talk about that again, what it means an hourly model and the complete model. The next section of the result section is the next plot of the result section is, you know, the observed values, the historical load values and the estimated load values of the forecast of the model. And you can see that there is a line that shows the distinction between the training period and the test period. And the upper part are the values themselves. I think it's the daily average because it's a long period. It's the daily average load which is observed versus which is forecasted. The orange one is the forecasted or predicted one, and the black one is the original one. So you can see here I chose this example because in this case you can see from the original plot and also from the residual plot, which is below, the difference between the observed and the predicted values, that there is a problem, a structural problem with the forecast, with the prediction. So for 2014, the load is completely mispredicted. The prediction is way higher than the actual load. So from these plots, you can like investigate these kind of structural problems with your model, whether there are longer periods when the model behaves maybe one way and longer periods the other way. So it means that it's not having, you know, random error for the prediction, but it has some structural problems. So and the distinction between the training period and the test period is also important here as well, because for the training period, the model actually, it was estimated on the training period, and the test period it didn't see. So the test period, it already tells you or shows you how good the model performs on the test period visually. So it's a visual inspection. So yeah, that's what I wrote down. Also, we can identify systematic problems in the predictions. The same goes here for the next plot, types of plots. So these are, you cannot really see them, but the upper part is the day of the week, model error by the model, or prediction error by the model, and the below plot is the monthly average prediction error by the model. And these plots are about the test set. So it's only, it shows you whether the predictions on the test set, so the forecast, whether contains systematic problems, like from which originate or which are, you know, which can be seen in the day of the week effects or in the monthly effects. So this is a similar plot than the previous one, but just from another perspective. And then the results section has a last table where it's really a table, and all of the models that you fit for these data are listed, and you have these metrics. You can see these metrics, which we will also talk about later, but this is it's more about selecting the best model from the possible, or from the existing set, based on some metrics which are more objective than the previously seen subjective plots or visual inspections. And then if you are satisfied with one model, then you can select and go on to the forecasting step. Yeah, here last one is the metrics which are available in DFT about the predictions. So the first one is the mean absolute percentage error, is MAPE. The second one is RMSE, the root mean squared error metric. And the third one is a version of the MAPE. So these are like, yeah, let's say objective metrics about how the model performs. The first one, MAPE, is more about, yeah, it's mean error. It's the absolute percentage error as it is in the name. So yeah, the lower this value is, the better the fitting was. And also the same goes to the RMSE. The lower the RMSE, the better the fitting was. But RMSE is a squared root error metric. So as you can see in the intuition part, the bigger errors get more penalized. So if you have a bigger error or have bigger errors in your predictions, this RMSE is worse in a model when compared to a model when there are no big errors, but there are certain errors constantly. So all of these metrics like target bit different aspects of this prediction. And also these three metrics comes with a CV variant. It means CV means cross-validation, and this cross-validation is about, you know, expanding the training sample. So it starts. So the model, the DFT under the hood calculates all kinds of metric forecasting performances. So it gets a small training period and then forecasts for a, yeah, maybe let's do it like that. So DFT calculates lots of CV variants. So for example, it gets only 2012 as the training period and then forecasts for 2013 and calculates these metrics. And then it expands year by year the training period and tries to forecast the next year. And DFT shows you all the, as you can see on the RMSE CV column, so it shows you all the RMSE values for the prediction if it expanded the training period. So it's, yeah, I talked too much about it. It's also let's say an objective metric of forecasting performance, and it tries to grasp the forecasting performance of the model, which you can base your selection. So that's it for before the first break. And the next part will be forecasting. I don't know if you have any question at this point.
If there are no questions, we can take a 10 or 15 minutes break and come back at 2:43, 45 maybe.
Yeah, let's 45 then.
Okay.
It's 10 minutes. Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks.
See you in a bit. Okay, shall we start?
If she wants, she manage less work.
Yeah, okay.
Just register and attend.
Yeah, but I'm
So we can continue. So we previously saw the import section, what files can be inputted in DFT, and then we saw the data-driven model, how we specify it, and what are after specification and after running the model, what kind of visual and objective checks we have in DFT in order to select the best model we can, and what we have, and then what model should be used for forecasting. So at this point, we will do the forecast based on the model that we estimated in the previous step. And then in the meantime, we also would like to adjust this forecast with the PMDB, with the values of the PMDB file that we inputted in the import section. So forecasting, as we already saw in the interface, we have this window. Oh yeah, I should have it bigger. So we have this window and we have some settings that we can choose, we can select. So the first one is the forecast time period, which really is the target year which you want to have a forecast for. Yeah, maybe I didn't mention, but DFT, as just like Trapunta, is only able to create forecasts for a whole year, for a whole calendar year. So that's why the forecast time period are separate years. So yeah, that's how it is. And then we have to choose the climate years they would like to use. So climate years means in this case that the values of the PCD files for these climate years will be used during the forecast. So this way, for a given target year, not just one yearly forecast is created, but there is going to be a forecast, a yearly forecast for every different climate year. But this is a fact, I think, that all of us know exactly. The other thing is the calendar. So the calendar of the forecast of the forecast should be selected here. We can choose either that it will be the same as the forecasted year, the target year itself, or we can use different calendar year, and for ERA, for our next data collection task, we have to use the 2018 calendar year. Also, we have some other settings in the right-hand side. The PCD adjusted climate button, the rescaling target demand button, the energy growth or decrease button, and the peak adjustment button. Yeah, these are the things which we will talk about later, but these are also some settings that adjust the forecast in a way that we can specify. So after selecting or validating these settings, we can go on to the second part of the page, where we have a summary about the model and a summary about what kind of model we will use for this forecast. So on the upper part, you see that. And below, you are able to check lots of tables inside DFT in the interface that are created based on exactly the values of the PMDB file that you inputted. So at this point, you are still able to check that the PMDB values are sensible, are good, are the ones that you wanted to use before clicking the forecasting button. Do the forecasting button. But yeah, so as soon as we are satisfied with these inputs or with these settings, we can click on the run forecasting button, and then this forecasting job starts. And in the interface, you will see this forecasting task running message, and you see this percentage evolution of the task itself. If as soon as the forecasting task finishes, you will see this message: forecasting task succeed, and the run forecasting button is no longer available. And that's it for the forecasting step. So so it can take a bit more time, because of the settings that you selected. Because if there are many target years that you selected and there are many climate years that you selected, this forecasting task is a bit time consuming. But in the meantime, you can even close the window of the DFT. In the background, this job will be alive, and the job will finish after the calculations are ready. So in the background, you can.
Sorry, Andres,
Yeah.
how long does it usually take to complete?
Ooh, I didn't check it, but yeah, maybe. So for one target year, one climate year, I think it's 1 or 2 minutes.
Yes,
Okay,
it
that's
doesn't take too long.
not too bad. Thank you.
No, not that bad. But yeah, of course, if
But yeah,
we
if you
need
put
35 climate years and 4
exactly,
target years, right, in ERA. So if you want everything in one step, it will be really long. So yeah, maybe at this point it's good to suggest you that before you make sure that the model which you will use or the forecasts which you will use are not good, maybe you just try with 1 year, one or some target years and some climate years, in order to have results quickly and make sure that everything looks good. And then after you make sure, mainly make sure that hopefully it will be good, then this bulk forecasting should be started. Because yeah, with 4 target years and 35 climate years for each, it will take I don't know, half an hour maybe, or even more. But not days, of course, not days. It's just the range of hours already. Yeah, but good question.
Before we go to the reporting, there's a question in the chat. What's the difference between selecting 1 year for climate years looping and selecting multiple years?
Yeah, there's not really a big difference. So
it's just different climatic conditions, I would say.
So this is the question. Okay, so
if that's the question.
what does
Yeah,
climate
if I understand
years
it
mean?
correctly.
So climate years mean that different climatic conditions should be present in the forecasts, and this is how it is done based on this ENTSO-E methodology. That for every climate year we should have a separate yearly forecast. But if the question is about the tool, so it's just the report files will contain, or the report section will contain, only those climate years that are selected here. So this technical difference is just that the output is different. And if we select more climate years, we will have more columns or more sheets or more tabs in the tool. Yeah, that's it. So yeah, if we did the forecast, then we can go to this results section in the DFT, which is about the reporting. So the user interface also contains some information about the results. These were selected during the development of the tool, but these are not comprehensive. So sometimes they are good for a quick assessment, but you know, in the background there are Excel files which can be downloaded and can be checked whether the forecast is what we would like to see. For example, here we see that for the 2025 target year, we have an average base load of 8,000 megawatts, and we have the effect of batteries, which is negative. We will talk about it, why it is negative. We have an effect of the electric vehicles and the heat pumps. We will also talk about why it can be negative. And these are average values, and also we see this plot which shows us lots of things, but mainly the unadjusted and the adjusted final forecast of the load and the plot shows the daily average forecasts. So this is because of computational issues. So in order not to, slow down the DFT, the tool itself, the developers decided to only show the daily average values of the forecasts, but you can see the hourly time series button on the right hand side. So if you are interested in exactly the hourly values of behind this graph, this plot, you can download them and check them for yourself. With red, you see the confidence interval of the predictions. Which you can select beforehand, which we talked about already, and down there you see the evolution of certain technologies, and also these are daily averages, I think. Yeah, so this is just a quick overview what can be checked in the DFT and the results sections, but there are much more. So there are other plots which hopefully helps the user assess how good or how the forecast looks like. And that's it. This is the interface about the results section. So, but as I already mentioned, in the end, we need reports, which are Excel files. We call them reports. That should be uploaded to the ENTSO-E share file, and this is the final output of a log of this demand forecasting process, and this should be so there is a deadline for that. How until when it should be uploaded to the share file. So just to have a quick overview about the different reports which are available. So we have four of them. We have a global report, which really just a small summary of these certain KPIs, the maximum peak for the given target year, the average maximum peak of the given target year, the average of the climate year peaks, and also the average yearly demand for a given target year. And yeah, of course, the average here reflects the average among the climate years. So we have this next one, which is the rescaling report. This is one of the key outputs of the DFT. So this contains, it's maybe already familiar. You are familiar with that because it's really similar to the one which was created by Trapunta, or which was at least required by ENTSO-E from Trapunta as well. So this has only one sheet, and on the upper part you have some KPIs again, and on the from row 10 you have the timestamp information, and also the time series, the forecasted time series for every selected climate year. So you can see here that only the 2001 climate year was chosen, but then if there are more, these are in the other columns. These will be in the other columns. The other thing, which is a more detailed report, is the adjusted report, so-called adjusted report. It's also really similar to what we had before with Trapunta. So this contains the hourly contribution of the adjustment components. So from this report, you can assess every kind of component, the effect of every component on the historical load. And the structure of this file is like, for every sheet, every separate sheet, for every selected climate year, there is a separate sheet which contains the data. This is right now, this is outdated, this print screen, because this output file or report file is even more detailed, has lots of information about the forecast. It helps basically the study teams also, and not just the user, but the study team, maybe, for example, the aero study team, just to have an understanding of the forecast, how the components affected it, and things like that. And yeah, it's not a report, the fourth one. I forgot this. It's not a basic report, but it's just a sample hourly time series, which can be downloaded from a certain plot, as I show you here. So for certain plots, you can download the hourly time series behind, and these are CSV files most of the time. And just to show you how they look like, they are similar, and they contain the information which is shown on the plot, on a certain plot. So these are the reports, and these are the results section and the reports in the DFT. If you have any question related to these,
Yes, we have a hand
free.
raised from Nikolai. Maybe
Okay.
you can go first, and then a question in the chat.
Okay, go on.
Yes, thank you, Andras, for the presentation so far. I just wanted to ask a question because I think I got the answer since I used the tool in the last 2 days, but from what I've seen, the rescaling report is the final report containing all the different components. I mean, including the demand from heat pumps, batteries, and electric vehicles. Is that so?
So you refer to the adjusted report? It's called
No,
like that?
the rescaling report.
No, the rescaling report only contains the final predictions.
Yes,
Not the
that means
components.
yes, but inside,
Yeah.
you have
Okay.
the summed up load of all the
Sure,
components
sure.
is inside.
Yeah.
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 And if you've and also if you've selected in the input files, if you've given a target demand, it is also rescaled to this target demand as well.
Yes, so it's just one time series, and it contains every single component, let's say, which is used. So yeah, what you refer to is the rescaling, right? So whether it's already a rescaled output or not.
Yes, I think it's rescaled.
It's rescaled, yeah.
Yeah,
it should be.
To reflect the target demand in the input of the PMDB datasheet.
Yeah. So you should see if you are really curious about this target demand, whether it contains or not. So here the KPIs are this average yearly. Sorry, maybe you don't see it, but it's age 5. The cell age 5 is the average yearly annual demand, which should exactly be the same as what you inputted in the PMDB file as target demand. So
yeah,
you can kind of check it whether
so that means that the tools
it works.
So that means that the tool scales up or down the baseline demand and also all the technologies demand to fit the target demand that you've given for a single for every year.
Yeah, we will talk about it tomorrow, but it rescales everything, but not it rescales not everything, but only baseline and heat pumps and right now PVs and batteries, but not electric vehicles and not additional base loads. So, but we will have many slides about this. It's really important, but yeah, so basically it rescales every hourly value, but not the components you mentioned, but there are components it rescales and there are components it does not.
However, this is provided that we select the target demand rescaling option in the tool.
Yeah, I'm aware of that, but I just wanted to know if it rescales everything or just separate components, and Andras already answered, so okay.
Yeah, so it's not everything, and there's an ongoing discussion whether it should remain as it is now, because EVs, batteries maybe should not be rescaled, but still, it rescales what it should, what it wants to rescale, and it doesn't rescale what it does not want. Yeah. So this rescaling report, in the name, it's maybe confusing, but it contains the rescaled values. Yeah.
Just to let you know that in the adjusted report now, there's a column with the values before the rescaling and after the rescaling. So in the end, if you want to filter out something, it's possible to do that.
Thanks, Anastasia. I saw that, but from my experience, I see that the tools practically rescales everything, and the rescaled, the final rescaled load is the load including all the technologies and including electric vehicles. That's what I saw when I used it last. When I ran it like yesterday, I think.
So sorry, what you mean is that it not only rescales heat pumps and baseline load, but also electric vehicles?
Yes.
Okay, it should not be, at least based on the documentation and the methodology we know. So do you have it's not easy to have a good example for that, because
I can show you the files.
Mm-hmm.
No problem,
so,
but maybe later.
Not now. But I just wanted to ask whether if it can be done put in an email, and then.
Yes.
And also the project number helps, because the developers and also some of us, can access the project number, the project.
Yeah, for sure. For sure, I'll put it in. Okay.
In any case, if you have any specific questions, you can always send us an email and we will answer to you.
Yeah, in the introduction, I wanted to say that the expert team demand, hopefully we won't see each other too much, because that means that you are okay with your forecasts and you can do that, but yeah, we will see. But we will help, and yeah, in any case, please write an email or contact us, and we try to solve the issue with the developers as well. Yeah. Okay, thanks for raising that. So
Then,
yeah, the next
sorry.
question.
Then the other question in the chat is what makes up the baseline forecast? If it's including heat pumps, EVs, and batteries, but I will partly answer to that.
So the baseline, what makes up the baseline forecast?
Yes.
So yeah, it's sometimes it's confusing how we use these words, baseline and base load. So baseline and base load, we refer to the basic forecast given by the model itself without adjusting with the PMDB values. So that's baseline or base load forecast. So yeah, we refer to that, yeah, some confusingly, but for example, in the adjusted report, you see in column E that we have a baseline kind of forecast. It means that this is the forecast which was created or calculated by only using the model we estimated and the PCD values which we want to use in the forecast. So without any PMDB values or without any other adjustment values. So it's kind of the basic forecast of the statistical model, the data-driven model. And then, yeah, the final forecast we refer to like that is the total forecast when we do the adjustments by adding the effect of these technologies. I don't know if I answered the question.
Yeah, that's grand. Thanks, Andres.
Yeah, okay, welcome. Thanks. But yeah, it's confusing because in the PMDB we have additional base load, which is, this base load, which is a constant load, kind of load, which can be added to the baseline forecast. But yeah, this creates confusion. But baseline, base load, and basic forecasts are the forecasts from the model. Okay, so if we don't have any more questions, then I think we can go to the next section, which is, yeah, about the PMDB. And these are some technical issues that sometimes arise and you should be aware of. So yeah, the rule of thumb is that we shouldn't have blank cells in the PMDB. So in this example, for the heat pumps, if we don't have information, or if we don't want to actually add any additional heat pumps for those years, we shouldn't leave it like that, empty, but we should fill every cell with 0. The other thing is that we talked about it. There was a question. So you can download the templates from the DFT for calendar data and PMDB data. So hopefully, if you start from that, you will be able to upload your files into the tool. Also, another specific problem which usually comes up is that especially for this target demand. So the first 4 rows, the sum of the first 4 rows should be exactly equal to the fifth row. So for in this case, for 2017, the sum of these values should be exactly the same what is in the cell in the fifth row. And yeah, you can even use the function, summing function there, just to make sure that the sum is equal. But yeah, it has to be precisely equal, and it's not enough to equal, I don't know, after rounding. So please be aware of that. And sometimes if this doesn't happen, then the tool doesn't allow you to upload your PMDB file. And not every error message is, informative. So sometimes it doesn't, you don't know about this problem, but most of the time these kind of things solve the issue. Okay, so let's go to some input files and some formatting and content questions about the inputs and the outputs later. So the load file, I showed you the file already. So for every sheet, there is a separate data for every historical year. And yeah, we have some rules. The first one is a naming convention. This should follow this rule, what I wrote down. So for example, this example works and it's just good. So for load file, it's again important that you cannot upload directly into the tool. It was also a decision made at some point during the development in order to be a bit safe and not to mess up with the input data, but it will be relaxed hopefully at later points. But currently, there is still the case that if you want to change your load file, you have to send it to Anastasia, Data and Models, and they can upload this file for you into the tool. So the rules we've talked about, each on a separate sheet. We have these columns, which we have to have the label also, but I think the labeling is not really important because the tool only reads the data. But the column types should be followed strictly. So as what you see here is the rule. And we have some notes here. Yeah, there is a link between the load file and the calendar file, of course. So the years of the holiday, the calendar file, I mentioned holiday file here, but the calendar file of the years of the calendar file must include all the historical years of the load time series, and this is true vice versa. So the model or the tool can only use those years which you have both load time series and the calendar time series or calendar data. And also, yeah, a leap year is a typical problem. So we should have we should include leap years, leap days as well into the cert and the leap years. Also, one other thing which is not listed here is the time convention of the load. So it should be in UTC. So it's a problem for many TSOs, as far as I know, and based on our analysis, let's say. So we suspect that not all of the load values and load files are in UTC. So if you have a chance, please check it. Otherwise, we will talk about this, but we have already kind of a quality check report for historical load files, and we will have some information about whether we see something strange about the load files which you send or which you have in the DFT. So based on that, we also have some knowledge about this, and we can ask for you maybe to change something. But then it's also important that you check your data and follow these conventions and rules. So about the filling, yeah, there's there's this first statement. So historical load and forecasted load have to be aligned. So it means, I mean this, that if we want something, we have to have the same thing to model, to base our forecast on. So if we want some kind of forecast, so some kind of load forecast, we have to have the same kind of historical load, because this is what we base our forecast on. So I mean, and I go to the second point here. So normally or usually market simulation, so these forecasts are inputs of the market simulations of each study, and they usually require kind of gross unbiased load, which includes the grid losses but excludes self-consumption. If this is not the case, of course, I think the study team would inform us and everybody, but I think this is the case. So this means that our forecasts should be aligned with this, and not just the forecast, but also the historical load. So this is just a kind of a message for you or for everybody who creates forecasts, that this coherency is really important. And also on the third point, I just included an example. So this double counting can easily happen for a certain market node, because for DFT, for demand forecasts, we have the possibility to use rooftop PVs and batteries to be included in the load. But then we also have the possibility in the PMDB renewables files to indicate, PV evolution. And if we are not careful, we can easily double count the effect of these. So coherence is not just important inside load, or if we talk about load itself, but it's also important to have to be coherent, among the data collections and data which we provide to ENTSO-E. So, but I don't know if it's going to be at a later point in the presentation, but also I wanted to tell you here that batteries and rooftop PVs right now is not suggested to be included in the demand forecast. So it's not suggested to be included in the PMDB file for the load, because it created some confusion for the study teams and also for every participant, actually, for every stakeholder. And the methodology is also not the same what we are used to for our market simulations. So DFT has a special methodology for calculating these household usage of batteries. So based on this, it's not recommended right now to include rooftop batteries and PVs in demand. Okay, so there are much to focus on and check, but hopefully it's clear. And the important part is that it's the same kind of. So we should make sure that all the generation and demand units are only counted once, and then all the underlying effects of the load, of the historical load we provide, we should be aware of. I know it's difficult, and I am also and I also struggle with how the data is measured, how it's collected. It's not 100% what it is included or not. So it's not easy, I know. but we should try to be like aware of every kind of effect that might be included. Okay, so the last part is, I already mentioned that we still can only use historical load until 2019. And this means that the COVID years are not used. We plan to use it at some point, but the features and the solution is still under development. If you have any questions, please feel free. I'm just checking. Yeah, so I will have a slide about this quality check report of the load file, because it belongs here, how we quality check the load file. Okay, but we will talk about that later. So let's go to the calendar file. So the purpose of this file is just to explicitly model the effect of special days, not the weekdays, simply not the weekends. We don't have to indicate them in this file, but the special days. And yeah, we want to apply the effect of these days also in the predictions. And what should be included, I already mentioned: holidays, extra days, long weekends, any kind of special days that you think is relevant for your market node. How it should be formatted, it also has a naming convention. As you can see, each year also is on a separate sheet, and actually you can use any number of possible groups, not just A to G, as you see here, and I think it's also in the template. You should also include these leap days, as I mentioned, and how the columns or the values should look like. So it should be 0 or 1 for every value. So 1 indicates that a certain day, which is a row, a certain day belongs to a special day category, which is a column. So the example here shows the structure of this file. And yeah, also it's good to follow the column types and to, yeah. So it's linked, yeah, the same information here. It's linked to the load file, so it should contain the same years in order to be able to use those years, and also the leap years should be the same. And how we should fill it? Yeah, I wrote it down for seasonal outlooks that it's really important to have an accurate calendar file. It's also true, I think, for Lux, but because we should in this long-term forecasting, we should select the 2018 calendar year. Maybe, yeah, it's not. It's important that we have a good an accurate calendar file for the historical years, because we don't use forecast or future calendar years, let's say. But anyway, in general, we also have some suggestions how to fill this calendar file. So I would say overlapping is not usual, but sometimes it can be justified. But I would avoid overlapping of the groups. So for a specific day, I would only categorize into one of the day groups. Also, similar days should be in the same group, so it means that the number of different day groups is not too big. And we only use a justified number of these groups. I would say, as a rule of thumb, but 5 groups should be enough. But of course, it's special. It can be special to the market node, and also, yeah, it's obvious, but we should pay attention to moving holidays. And there is this website which helped me, at least as a luck, to create my own or our own calendar file. So yeah, if you find it useful, then good. So this is about the calendar file. I don't know. So if you have any questions, I think we can talk about them. And I checked what time is it, because I have to leave in 20 minutes. Okay, so we can go on to the next topic, which is really, yeah, it's a bit advanced, but and also at the same time it's really simple or obvious. This is just my kind of how I created as a luck projects when I've started working with DFT. It's just really a suggestion. It's how I do the things. It's not really obligatory. But yeah, first of all, it's good to know that DFT, as I mentioned already, collect all the projects that are started, that are created in a central place, and they version these projects, or they create, you know, these kind of, you can follow the what's happening inside the project. So this is an advantage of the tool. It's true that it's not perfect yet, because versioning is not how it should work. At least it can work. It could work even better, but still, we have versioning. So what does it mean? So if we create a project, then for every step we can have multiple versions. So if we import, we are in the import section, and we import some PMDB file. Then we do the forecasting, and we are not happy with the result. We can go back to the import section again and create a new task, it's called new task, and it will create a new version of this import inside the same project. So you can like have this iterative process inside one project. So everything is inside a project, so you can follow that a bit more easily. But it's important to know what this versioning information contains. And a bit of a disadvantage is that it only contains the date and the time. So yeah, as you can see, but maybe you cannot really see, but in the interface, I will show you. So if you go to a project and go to the imports, the one which I showed you previously. No, this is the test one, but this is the project which I already created and went through. So you can see that I'm in the import section now, and I have the data already loaded. But then I can have an option to create a new task inside this project, and also to access the history. So what this means is that right now I have a version which was created in the morning. But if I create a new task and I do this validation and start everything, but I don't upload here, I'm just loading what's inside the tool. I created a new task, new import task, and now it's, you know, it's a new thing, and I can change the input values inside my project. And this way, after it loads, we can come back later. So after it loads, with the access history, I can change between versions. And this is not only true for the import section, but it's true for the data-driven modeling and for forecasting as well. And of course, for the results. So I think it's good to know that about this feature. Now maybe the tool is a bit overwhelmed, but yeah, now it's loaded. So we can see that the history, the data loading history has two things already, which the one is I created in the morning and the one which I created just now. So yeah, this is what I want to emphasize, that this way you can iterate. If you have to do iterations, you can follow what happens inside the project, and hopefully you can follow which iteration, for which iteration, what kind of data you used and what kind of model you use. So I talk about this in this slide, and I just suggest you should, if you change something as an input, you just version it for yourself as well. And maybe it's not enough to include the day information, but you also need to include this timestamp information, this one. If you do quick iterations during one day, but it's just how I do this process as a luck, and it helped a bit. But I know that DFT is not perfect in this sense as well, so it's not really easy sometimes to follow which version I used and which input file was used in that version. So it's not easy. I also recommend, I sometimes do it, sometimes don't, to just collect for myself every setting that I chose during a data collection or a process or a project. Okay, so having said that, I also create for myself a folder structure which reflects kind of the same timestamp information. I really had some problems with the Hungarian load forecast. So the input files were not good, and I had to create many input file, different versions of them. So that's why I had to do lots of iterations, and that's why I was kind of really, I had to do this. But it's just a suggestion. Okay, so that's about the versioning. And finally, what I would like to show you is two things: that the quality check reports which we have, or which ENTSO-E has, or which the expert team demand has right now. It checks the historical load time series and also the output files which you upload after you finish the whole process and upload the results. So I already collected two of them. The first one is the historical load report for this case, in this case, Germany. So this is a report which we will run for in the beginning of the data collection for every market node. And then we will check whether the data, the historical load data, looks good or has some strange things. First of all, this report has a general quality check part, which is like really some technical things. So it checks whether the the load file, this Excel file with the different sheets for different years, have exactly the good number of days in those sheets. So does this check? It's an R-based report, but finally we have this table, and then we can check whether 2012 has the leap day in it, and also 2016 has the leap day in it, at least from the number, the count of the day point of view. Also, how the hours of the day. So it checks whether a certain day for every year, actually, for a certain day contains values different than 24. So this report says that these German files have no days that are not 24-hour long, so it's good. And this is just an example of what the report or the table looks like. Okay, so and then this incomplete observations, this we also check. So it means that we don't want to see any missing or zero or negative load values in any hour. So this is what we check. So if any of the load values missing or lower than 1, then it will like raise a flag for us. And for this case, in this case, Germany has 0 hours that are not complete, at least in this sense. So from these 3 simple checks, we say that okay, the German historical load file technically looks good. Then we go to this visualization part where we try to kind of also check the content of the historical load file. So it's going to show some graphs about these kind of summary or aggregate values of the load files. And this is just a visual check. And for us, whether we see something strange. So first is the yearly consumption for every year. Of course, it's in terawatt hours. Then the yearly peak load evolution from the bottom to the top. This is also what we check. There is this plot about the daily average load, which is really just a static plot, but it can also show some problems if there exist any. And then we have the duration curves for every year. And then we have this kind of load factor metric, which is the maximum load divided by the average load, but for different periods. These histograms is about the daily load factors, and these points are about the yearly load factors. So of course, for every year there is only one yearly load factor, but for every year there are 365 or 66 load factors. And if we see something strange in the evolution of this load factor, is also an indication how that maybe the load file is strange. So, and the last 2 things is the daily peak hours of the load by season. And it goes from the bottom to the top again. And this is just lots of points colored by the season. And one point is about that for one day, one point is 1 day, and the hour of the load, the hour of the peak on that day. So from this we can see how in every season the peak of the load curve where it accumulates or where it usually is. And if we see some strange behavior in the evolution, then it's an indication for us that okay, something strange is going on in the load file. Maybe the measurement process changed or something changed behind. So yeah, if we see something, we like communicate it to the LUC or the SAC or the TSO, and then we iterate a bit. So hopefully we won't contact you, but it can happen. And then finally we have a representative, we call it representative curve. It's just really some certain daily curves of the historical load. In this case, it was selected that the January 3rd Thursday. In every year, the 3rd Thursday in January is plotted here. And also in every year, the 3rd Thursday of the of July is plotted here. And if you see, so if you see something which is very different between these curves, then we also see that, okay, something happens in the load file which will affect the forecast, and we should like go after it and clean the data before we use it for forecasting. So this report is also not complete, but this is how we got until this point. But just to let you know that we have this check, and it can happen that before the data collection or during the data collection, we may contact you if we see something strange for a market node. If any question comes up, please feel free to ask. And then in the meantime, I also open our quality check report for the results. So it's not anymore the historical load, but the results, which are the results of your forecasting, in DFT. And it's based on the rescaling report, which only contains the total final load for certain market node for every climate year. So we have, yeah, this report is for the winter outlook, so that's why it only contains months, and it only contains 2023 and 24. This was the previous winter outlook. So we have kind of a summary table for the peaks. And then we have the same information, but with these histograms about the peaks for every month, for every different climate year. So for each month, there are 35 values here. And also we have this kind of daily average. Maybe not. Maybe it's not daily average for the winter outlook. It's the hourly load forecast for all the climate years. So that's why there are lighter red and darker red values. And then we have this weekly plots, which are collected for every climate year. As you can see, this is the first climate year, and we have this week number, and then the second climate year for every week. So this way, yeah, one aspect of the forecast can be checked, mainly this weekly evolution and the day of the week effect, but also some other strange things. Sometimes they happen. And then we have this kind of plot, which is this is a calendar plot about the daily curves. And yeah, this also would show us some strange or outlier values for certain days. So that's it. We have these reports as expert team demand, and yeah, you can so the whole process will look like that. We use these quality check reports in the beginning of the data collection and in the end of the data collection, on the inputs and on the outputs. And if we see something, then we may contact you and try to find the possible sources of these errors or some strange behaviors. And for the the slides, yeah, in the end, I have this this list of the workflow. So, but it's not new. We've talked about this. So we collect the data, or you collect the data actually for the PMDB file mostly. You create your inputs, you upload them to the DFT, you validate them, so visually check them. Then you build your model, you select the best model that you think is the best. Then you do the forecasting. You can do the validation of your forecast, and then in the results section, you generate the report, you save your reports, and then you upload these reports to the share file. So this is kind of the workflow which you need to go through, and hopefully it was clear how from a higher perspective, without going really into the small details, how this process looks like in the DFT. And hopefully all of you will have or already has access, and hopefully you can try to experiment with it. And yeah, tomorrow I know there's not too much time between the two sessions, but tomorrow I hope we will have time for questions, any kind of questions that comes up until then. And we also would like to go into more details about the specific methodologies, the models, how the technologies are modeled, heat pumps, electric vehicles, and also how the rescaling works and things like that. So that's it from my side. If you still have question, maybe one question I will have time, but then I will leave the floor to Anastasia.
Okay. I can't see any questions. I don't know if this is a good sign or not.
Yeah, okay, I will then, but feel free to collect them, and then tomorrow we
Yes.
can also have some. So, okay. So then I
Yeah,
say goodbye.
if you want to interrupt here, maybe you can also send an email with your questions.
Okay, so thank you all,
Okay.
and yeah, see you tomorrow.
Yes, thank you, Andreas.
See you, bye.
Bye.
Thanks, bye-bye.
Anastasia, can you just please tell us what is the plan now? Do we have a break or?